Hari Om. We start with the prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Bande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pitattvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Sakhatvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are now looking at the who is a Jiivanmukta, and in that we are taking some few slokas from the Viveka Chudamani, and we just finished the 427 and we'll do 428. It says Brahmatmanoho sojitayoreka bhava avagahini. Let me read again. Brahmatmanoho sojitayoho eka bhava vagahini nirvikalpacha chinmatra vruttihi nirvikalpacha chinmatra vruttihi pragyeti kachyate sa sarvada bhavedyasya sa jivanmukta uchyate. So Saha Jivanmukta, he said, he is called Jivanmukta. So who is Jivanmukta? So he says, he Saha Jivanmukta Uchyate is called Jivanmukta. Who is the one? Is here he defining who exactly is a Jivanmukta. So Brahma Atmanoho, so Brahma and Atma. So Brahma and Atmanoho Soditayoho Ekabhava Avagahini. So Ekabhava, oneness of the Brahman and Atma. It means Aham Brahmasmi. Atma is not something, some object. It is I am. So I am Brahman. Means I am infinite. What I am looking for is not really Brahman. Remember the whole analysis we started? I am looking for happiness. I am looking for absolute, uninterrupted, inexhaustible happiness. That can only happen when I am limitless. By gaining anything limited, I feel there is always the dukkha misritatvam. It always involves dukkham because there is a problem in gaining it, problem in preserving it, and problem in losing it. And that's one of the dukkham misritatvam. And also asamtruptikaram, because every time I gain something, I feel myself still I am an inadequate person. So gaining any object in the universe, it can be whole universe, it can be the world itself, still my ananda is only one unit according to the Taittiriya Upanishad. A man who owns the whole universe and young enough to enjoy it, his happiness is one unit, and the Gandharva, Manushya and all in the higher lokas, one is 100-fold the previous one, and means lower loka, and ultimately up to Prajapati. Prajapati is 10 to the power of 26. That means 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 26 times. If you multiply of one unit of the human being happiness, and that too human being is not one who owns a little bit, wants the whole universe, and also young enough to enjoy. Because if you are too old, you cannot enjoy anything, you cannot digest anything or all that. So young enough to enjoy all that happiness, and the Prajapati's happiness 10 to the power of 26. But all those happiness scale, that each one is objective happiness or reflected happiness. Same happiness one can get by renouncing that world or that field that one is in. Because the sotriyasya akamayatasya, the statement is also repeated after every ananda. The scripture repeats sotriyasya akamayatasya. So one who akami, that means who does not have a desire, and because of what? Not because of he is dull or sleepy, because Sotriyaha, who understood that there is no happiness in this, and he wants looking for higher, and that person also enjoys the same happiness because he is a contentment. That means mind is not agitated because of the desires. Unhappiness comes only because I have desire for an object. Desire comes because of the vasanas. Because there are vasanas, I have desires. Therefore, desires are root cause only at the manifestation level. The root cause is vasanas. And vasanas themselves come because of actions. So therefore, karma becomes a problem. Karma gives vasanas. Vasanas give you desires. Desires will propel you to actions. Action will give you vasanas. Kutimuhodado patana karanam. It's like a whirlpool getting caught up in this action results, vasanas, action results, vasanas, and janma karma. This happiness is only at certain level where I can get happiness once I recognize that I am Brahmasmi only. So what I am looking for is inexhaustible happiness, cannot be obtained by any means, because any means is finite, and finite cannot give me infinite. But I cannot stop looking for it. I cannot get what I am looking for. This is the tragedy of human life. But only way to solve this problem is recognition that I am infinite, and that's what actually expresses itself in terms of searching for happiness. What I am searching for is Purnatvam, and Purnatvam cannot be obtained, but it has to be recognized because I am already Purnam, and there is an intrinsic to become what I am rather than what I take myself, what I am not. And that's what is essentially the life purpose is. Life is what is meant for life, what is the meaning of life, what is the purpose of life, to recognize that I am full already. That's all the purpose of life. To recognize that I am searching all over for myself only, but myself is you turn back, and Vedanta tells you that what you're looking for is not out there, and what you're looking for is your own nature. It is neither inside nor outside, because Antar Bahishchata Swarvam Yapya Narayana Sthitaha. The Narayana is either inside, both outside. So you are looking for Narayana. Looking for Narayana is looking for your own self, because the self that I am is complete by itself. Sarvabhutastam Atmanam Sarvabhutani Atmani. So one who sees himself in all in himself and everything in everywhere himself, he is the one who is Sthita Prajna, he is the one who is established. So Brahma Atmanaha Ekatvam, so Eka Bhavana, Bhava Avagahani. So one who has recognized, Avagahana means one who has recognized, because not that he is going to establish something, it's already there, but who has to recognize what I have. So I am searching for a bunch of keys all over the world, and I can never get all over by searching, because what I am searching for is already I have it in my pocket, and I am looking all over the world everywhere. In the same way, I am looking for happiness all over the world. I can never get happiness by searching for anything, because I have to recognize that I am that happy, and happiness is fullness, and that means Aham Brahmasmi has to be recognized, and that recognition comes only through Vedanta Shravana Srotavya, Mantavya, Nididhyasitavya, which means that the mind is required for the recognition also. So here it's emphasized in this sloka, Brahma Atmanoho Soditayoho. Sodita means who has seek, or who is searching for it or inquiring into it. Your search is by inquiry only, through Srotavya, by Sravana, Manana and Nididhyasana, by approaching an appropriate teacher, Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprasnena Sevaya, and Upadesyanti te Jnanam Jnanas. Therefore they teach, and who are jnani is going to teach. That's why I'll come back again. But this part is essentially that I have to recognize that Aham Brahmasmi by Sodhana. Sodhana is Parisodhana. That's what Parisodhana is. Also a scientific research is what is Parisodhana. Here is a research in terms of my own nature, because I have mistaken myself, and the mistaken is identified because I am a conscious entity and this is unconscious entity. I am equating because I don't know what I am. So ignorance is obvious, because when I take that I am this as my biodata is I am this, obviously it is ignorant. And taking that itself is what I know is another ignorance. And therefore the clear understanding, therefore Vedanta points out, you are taking what you are not as you are, ignoring what you are, and what you are is not only this, but this is only Nama Rupa, but the very substantive of this is what you are, that is Brahman. And therefore, Brahma Atmanaha Soditaha. So inquiry is required. So inquiry is, who is going to inquire? Inquiry can only be done by a jiva using the mind. Mind by itself is inert. Inert cannot inquire. So mind activated by the consciousness, Chidabhasa, has to inquire, and that is what Soditaha. So therefore, the emphasis is, it's not the shutting off the mind. Mind is required. What is the shutting off or beyond the mind? All those words is only to understand that it's not the misunderstanding in the mind. Those have to be ejected and with a clear understanding. Wrong notions can only be removed by not another wrong notions, but the right notions. This is what conditioning is according to the Dakshinamurthy, although he doesn't specify this way, and in fact he says you should not go, there should not be a process of removal of the conditioned mind. Very observation of the mind will uncondition. Observation will not mind, nothing will happen, because I need to observe the mind, inquire into the mind by a vichara, by inquiry using the Vedanta knowledge, because I am that has to be understood by inquiring who am I, without knowing what is that I am stand for, will not give the result. It will only give, I am shutting off other things, I am not this, I am not this, I am not this, then who am I? Inquire. But the inquiry has to be supported by Vedanta Vichara. So when Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi asks you to find out who you are, he already gave system for inquiry, and that is essentially the study of scriptures, where Bhagavad Gita, he has selected slokas that are important, that points in the direction, and also from the Viveka Chodavana itself, he has selected slokas, and that which points in the direction of who am I. That has to be Soditam. So here, Brahmatmanoho Soditaha Yaham Ekam, Ekatvam of the oneness has to be established by the inquiry of what is Brahman and who am I, and what's the difference. Because in the Brahman is the three aspects of there, as I see it from the jiva, it is pure consciousness and the mind and the reflected consciousness. Reflection occurs because the subtle body has a capacity to reflect. So the mind itself is inert, but it has a capacity to reflect consciousness. In the reflection of consciousness, it appears to be a conscious entity. Just like the reflection of the sunlight, the moon is appeared to be a luminous entity. So by reflecting processes, it acquires the property of the reflection or the light of reflection. In the same way, consciousness that is getting reflected, it acquires the property of the consciousness even though it is inert. And that mind which has the wrong notions about itself has to inquire that who is that I am, and that is called Sodhana. So here Viveka Chodamani prescribing the inquiry is required. That's why Srotavyaha, Mantavyaha, Nididhyasitavya. Tavya means you have to do it. There are no shortcuts here. You cannot just sit down and in a seat of meditation and find out who am I without background of all the study of the Vedanta. And Vedanta has to be studied and inquired, and in the inquiry I have to use proper knowledge that I am not this, but I am the total. That I am the total comes from the Vedantic study itself. And if you follow, how about other teachers who have not studied Vedanta? We address that aspect. Other teachers, or we can follow, provided they teach Aham Brahmasmi in one way or the other. So how did they learn? They might have learned in their own way, or through Vedanta in the previous life itself. So we don't take the exceptions as a rule. The Ramana Maharshi didn't study Vedanta, and therefore I don't have to study. Ramana Maharshi might have studied Vedanta in the earlier life, or also in his childhood also he was exposed to Vedanta enough, because he knew, and he went to Tiruvannamalai and went in front of the God and says, I have come, you have come all the way to recognize you. So he has the bhakti, and he knows what need to be done, and he rejected he had a haircut and removed the Yajñopavitam. That means he knew what is sannyasa means also. and all that is process. People ignore all that, and one has to understand what he teaches, because whenever he answered some questions, depending upon who is asking, he might have answered in such a way that other people misinterpret as though, until you learn the whole thing of Vedanta, of what Ramana Maharshi has taught. This is only a deviation, but here the condition of the mind is wrong notions and wrong understanding. One has to decondition, and wrong notions cannot be just removed by observing the wrong notions. Only by right notions, or by not right notion, right understanding, wrong notions can be. Therefore, Brahmatmanoho soditaha yaha. So, ekatvam of Brahma Atmanoho, so bhava avagahini, one who has understood. Avagahana means clear understanding, crystal clear understanding without any doubt. One who has that is nirvikalpacha chinmatra vruttihi prajnaha iti kachyate. So, he is nirvikalpaha. So, the nirvikalpana is without any thought. That is nirvikalpa samadhi. Here, without any thought, how can you inquire? So, it is not without any other thought. Without any other thought other than who am I inquiring of using the Vedanta. So, that means you have to reject all other worldly transactional thoughts, and I want this, I want this, I want this. You have to withdraw that mind from that pursuit of sense enjoyment, and those thoughts have to be removed and substitute by inquiry into that. Means I have to ekagrata in study, and therefore there is a desire to study and desire to learn and do nididhyasana. That's what is nirvikalpa means, not thoughtless state. Thoughtless state is object, people call it objectless awareness. There cannot be objectless awareness, not that there cannot be, objectless awareness cannot be recognized. For anything, I need an object for me to see the objectless awareness. Like I had to see the moon to recognize the presence of sunlight where the moon is. If there is no moon, sunlight is there, but I cannot recognize it. So I need an object to reflect that sunlight. Only by the reflection of the sunlight by the moon, I can say there is a sunlight there that is falling on the moon, and that I can see now because of the reflection. In the same way, the mind has to recognize by using the reflection, which is Siddhavasa, that there is an original consciousness. And when I say I am consciousness entity, that consciousness is the original consciousness and only reflection. When I say I am the light, it is not the sun, it is not the moonlight, it is the sunlight that only I am recognizing, and that has to be understood. By who? By the mind only. Like just like the moon has a notion that I am a self-luminous entity. So that moon has to recognize the luminosity in me is not due to myself, it is borrowed luminosity, and there is an original light that is coming, and that luminosity is the original, that is sunlight only. But without the object, the recognition is not possible. Object is not bringing the consciousness, but object is revealing the consciousness. That's why Upanishad says the Pratibodha Viditam Matam. It is revealed in every knowledge. So what should I do in Brahman? This is meditation. In every knowledge, that is not Nididhyasana becomes. In every knowledge, consciousness is there. So shift from what I am conscious of to that because of which I am conscious of. That is the meditation. Yan manasa na manute ye nahur manomatam tadeva brahma tvam viddhi nedam yididam upasate. That which mind cannot see. So it's not something that Brahman it can see, but because of which Brahman is able to see or to know. Therefore, every knowledge, it is revealed because I am conscious of this thought, I am conscious of next thought, I am conscious of that thought. Thought is required for me to be conscious of. At the same time, that it is not the thought, but that because of which I know the thought. It's not the moon, that because of which the moon is known. That is the sunlight. In the same way, it's not because of the thought, but because of which I know the thought. That is the light of consciousness that is falling on the thought and getting reflected. And that is what is the meditation is. So meditation is looking at the moon and seeing the sunlight. That's a meditation. In fact, that is direct meditation called Nirvikalpa Samadhi without any objects. Here Nirvikalpa Samadhi is not the absence of the thought, but absence of the thought is an object again, because you have absence of the thought where? In the mind only. So mind without the thoughts becomes an object for me to see, and that is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So it's not going somewhere or doing something, it is still object. It's not objectless awareness, it is thoughtless state of the mind, but the object is still there. That object is the mind itself without any thoughts. So it's not the mind, it's not the thought that bother me, it is because of getting carried away with the mind or with the thoughts is a botheration, and that's what samsara is. Samsara is not the presence of the world, but getting carried away with the world, thing that gives happiness, that is samsara. So here we have to be very careful here. Nirvikalpaha has to be understood clearly. It's not the shedding of the mind. Even if the shedding of the mind, it's only shedding of the thoughts in the mind, but mind itself is the object there, and thoughts are not the problem. If you think thoughts are the problem, then it becomes a problem. That thoughts are a problem is a problem itself, because I'm trying to struggle hard to find out how to suppress my thoughts, and that becomes another struggle. Therefore, it is not the thoughtless state, it is in spite of the thought, I have to recognize myself, because every thought is known, because the light of consciousness is beaming through or reflecting through every thought, and that has to be understood. So Nirvikalpaha has to be understood as absence of other dissipating thoughts, only this thought where my mind is aham brahmasmi, aham brahmasmi. It's not a repetition of a japa like japa, but recognition that I am there in every thought. That is Nirvikalpaha. And therefore it is called Chinmatra Vrittihi. It is continuous vritti of Chinmatram, consciousness alone, as Akhandakara Vritti. In every thought is being revealed, I am paying attention to that only, not to the contents of the reflecting medium. It means this thought keep coming, but I am paying attention to only the reflection of the consciousness. So when I look at the object, I am seeing also, I am conscious of the object. The consciousness is my own self. I am seeing myself in that form. I am seeing myself in this form. So forms are ignored, nature of the forms are ignored. But if I pay attention to the form also, it becomes a vibhuti only. My glory, I am existing in the form also. Because form is also nothing but he himself became many also. So that also has to be understood. So here we go into more details of this sloka, because this is where he defines Sa Jiivanmukta Uchate. He is called Jiivanmukta. We'll stop here and come back again and discuss the rest of the sloka. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyati. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.